Imagine this. You take 9 bullets, point blank, and just walk away like it's Monday morning. Or you fall 10 kilometers out of the sky with no parachute and still get back on your feet. Or you survive hundreds of assassination attempts and live to old age, as if death herself didn't want the smoke. And no, this isn't Jason Statham's new movie where he casually ignores the laws of physics. These are real people who hacked probability and turned Lady Luck into their personal bodyguard. Strap in. These are the most insanely lucky humans ever recorded.
Lucky guy number 1? Peter Freuchen, the ice tomb digger. Peter Freuchen, the Danish explorer, was a true giant, a 7-foot-tall beast. He treated the harsh Arctic as if it were his own private backyard. But one day, that backyard decided to bury him alive. Caught in a severe blizzard, Peter dug a snow cave for shelter. Nature immediately played a cruel trick. He was buried, and the snow instantly solidified into concrete-hard ice. His tools were outside. Freuchen was sealed inside an icy coffin. That's when our giant demonstrated MacGyver-level resourcefulness. What is the first thought of a gentleman trapped in an inescapable situation? He, pardon the specifics, relieved himself. Freuchen molded his feces into the shape of a sharp chisel and waited for the vicious Arctic cold to turn the substance into rock. Armed with this improvised biological dagger, he literally fought his way to freedom. The cherry on top? Upon reaching his camp, he personally, using pliers and zero anesthesia, amputated his own gangrenous toes. Look, this man's life story is essentially The Revenant turned up to 11, and he did it without Leonardo DiCaprio.
Story number 2. Betty Lou Oliver, the woman who refused to fall. The year was 1945. A B-25 Mitchell bomber, totally lost in thick fog, decided to park itself right into the 78th floor of the Empire State Building. Elevator operator Betty Lou Oliver was working on the 80th floor at the time. The explosion literally hurled her out of the elevator car. She suffered severe burns, but unbelievably survived the initial hit. Rescuers, in an effort to get her out, placed Betty into a different elevator to take her down, and that's where her luck performed a double somersault. The elevator cables, badly weakened by the plane strike, snapped, sending Betty Lou into a terrifying free fall from 75 stories up. It should have been finita la commedia, but fate has a bizarre sense of humor. Miles of snapped steel cable plunged into the shaft first, coiling up at the bottom to form a giant, heavy-duty spring. The elevator car landed precisely on this steel cushion, bounced, and Betty survived again. To this day, she holds the Guinness World Record for the longest elevator fall ever survived. Now that's what we call a soft landing. Case study number 3. Frane Selak, the Croatian version of Final Destination. If you ever meet this music teacher, just run. Seriously, keep your distance. Frane Selak is a walking, durable phenomenon who stubbornly refuses to die. In 1962, his train derailed and plunged into an icy river. 17 people died. Frane survived. A year later, he was literally sucked out of a malfunctioning airplane door, resulting in 19 fatalities, and he freaking landed in a haystack. His misadventures continued. His bus later plunged into a river. Then his car caught fire twice. He was hit by a bus. And finally, his car flew off a cliff, but Frane managed to jump out and cling to a tree, watching his vehicle explode below like a scene from a cliched B-movie. After playing hide-and-seek with death 7 times, the universe apparently had enough and decided to apologize. At the age of 73, Selak bought a lottery ticket, his first in 40 years, and hit the jackpot for almost $1 million. Clearly, his lifetime quota of bad luck had been fully exhausted, and the celestial bureaucracy decided to issue a compensation check. Phenomenon number 4. Timothy Dexter, the economy-breaking genius. Timothy Dexter was an 18th century American businessman, a dude who was fantastically stupid, no cap. By all laws of finance, he should have died a pauper. His wealthy, educated rivals constantly fed him the most ridiculous business advice, low-key hoping he would just go broke. For instance, they suggested he sell bed warmers, the metal pans for hot coals, and the tropical West Indies. It was a total bruh moment. Who needs a hot pan in that heat? But Dexter was like, say less, and he did it. And guess what? The locals immediately decided these things were the super skill for pouring molasses, and they bought up the entire shipment for absurd money. Then his friends, as a final troll, suggested he ship a massive load of coal to Newcastle. That's literally like selling sand in the Arizona desert. Dexter, completely clueless, sent the ships. And then you will not believe what happened. His shipment arrived the exact moment the region was hit by a massive miners' strike. He sold his coal at an astronomical price. He clearly had a personal guardian angel on Wall Street, and he managed to destabilize an entire regional economy just by being an idiot.
Case number 5. Maggie Dixon, death's technical knockout. Maggie Dixon's story is pure proof that sometimes absolute shoddy workmanship can literally save your life. In 1724, in Edinburgh, Maggie was sentenced to hang. The execution happened, and she hung in the noose for the required time. Doctors signed the certificate confirming the death. Her body was packed into a coffin and headed for the cemetery. But along the way, the wagon drivers heard a bizarre knocking coming from inside the box. When they opened the lid, they found Maggie, alive, and probably highly annoyed by the terrible quality of the service. Under Scottish law at the time, the sentence was strict, to hang until death ensues. Since the sentence was technically executed, she was hanged, executing her a second time for the exact same crime would have been double jeopardy. It was a level 80 legal life hack. Maggie was released and went on to live for another 40 years, earning the iconic nickname Half-Hanged Maggie. This is what it means to tell death, not today, buddy.
Legend number 6. Violet Jessop, the Shipwreck Magnet. Violet Jessop is either the most impossibly lucky or the most dangerously unlucky stewardess in maritime history. This lady had terrifying main character energy. She just happened to be aboard major ocean liners right when they decided to sink. First, she worked on the Olympic when it collided with a warship in 1911. The ship took heavy damage but barely limped back to port. Violet was completely unbothered. A year later, what in the world? She takes a job on the company's brand new, shiny luxury liner. Its name? The Titanic. Spoiler alert, the iceberg delivered an epic instant kill. Violet was placed in a lifeboat and survived one of the century's most infamous disasters. You think she said hell no and switched careers? Not a chance. During WWI, she became a nurse on the third sister ship, the Britannic. In 1916, it struck a German mine and blew up faster than you can yell "abandoned ship." And yes, Violet survived that one too, completing the hat trick of doom. If they ever invent a time machine and you see Violet Jessop buying a ticket for your cruise, know this. That's the biggest red flag you'll ever see. Run, refund your ticket, and take the train. Number 7. Roy Sullivan, the Human Lightning Rod. The odds of getting struck by lightning over your lifetime are roughly 1 in 15,000. But our American forest ranger, Roy Sullivan, must have personally offended Zeus, the god of thunder. Roy didn't just get hit once or twice. He has an officially documented 7 direct hits between 1942 and 1977. He was fried on a fire watchtower, inside his truck, in his own yard, and even while fishing. Talk about being perpetually trolled by a deity. These strikes burned his hair off, knocked his shoes clean off, and left him with scars that looked like permanent life tattoos. Roy eventually developed extreme paranoia and became convinced some supernatural force was actively hunting him. And who could blame him? For a while, he carried a can of water everywhere, just in case the heavens decided to turn him into a human shish kebab again. This guy clearly had the hardest plot armor in history. Unique case number 8. Anne Hodges, the cosmic target. Out of the billions of people who have ever walked this earth, only one person holds the officially confirmed title of direct meteorite strike victim. Meet Anne Hodges. In November 1954, she was having an absolute chill vibe, peacefully napping on her couch in Alabama when a chunk of space rock weighing nearly 9 pounds punched right through her roof. It instantly shattered her radio, ricocheted, and slammed straight into her hip. The impact left a giant pineapple-shaped bruise, but otherwise, Anne was totally fine. Just pause and consider the level of absurdity. This asteroid fragment traveled for millions of years through the cold vacuum of space, dodging planets and stars, only to execute the ultimate cosmic sniper shot, ruining the afternoon nap of a regular American housewife. This is, without a doubt, the most pointless shot in the history of the universe. Record breaker number 9. Vesna Vulović, the secret cheat code. Imagine falling out of a plane from 33,000 feet without a parachute. That's a final boss nightmare. For 22-year-old Serbian flight attendant Vesna Vulović, this became reality in 1972. A bomb tore the plane apart mid-air, and Vesna plummeted to Earth, trapped inside a chunk of the fuselage. Then came the ultimate plot twist. This metallic coffin miraculously crashed at the perfect angle onto a deep, snow-covered mountain slope in Czechoslovakia, which acted as a giant shock absorber. She was found by a local resident who, by insane luck, happened to be a World War II medic and knew exactly how to keep her alive until doctors arrived. Vesna woke from her coma with zero memory of the fall, and rumor has it her very first words were a request. "Can I have a cigarette?" She survived the highest fall without a parachute in recorded history. Clearly, her guardian angel was running on God mode that day and skipped the lunch break. Unique legend number 10. Tsutomu Yamaguchi, Double Trouble. Surviving 1 atomic bombing is a statistical cheat code. Surviving 2? That feels like a vicious joke with a terrible punchline. In August 1945, 29-year-old engineer Yamaguchi was on a business trip in Hiroshima when Little Boy detonated. The blast tore his eardrums and left him with burns, but he survived, shaking it off with minor burns and a little scare. What do you do after a nuclear apocalypse? You haul ass home. The next day, heavily bandaged, he boarded a train to his hometown of Nagasaki. The day after that, he was standing in front of his boss, trying to explain what a mushroom cloud was, while the boss was clearly thinking he was talking total nonsense, when the second bomb, Fat Man, detonated. Is that even legal? Once again, Yamaguchi was within the blast radius, and once again, he survived. He lived to the age of 93, becoming living proof that his plot armor was tougher than any nuclear weapon. Amazing precedent number 11. Maarten de Jonge. Does cheapness save your life? Yes! Some people collect stamps. Dutch cyclist Maarten de Jonge seems to collect missed airline disasters with unbelievable finesse. In March 2014, he was supposed to be on the infamous flight MH370, the one that vanished without a trace. At the last minute, he found a cheaper ticket and switched flights. Fast forward just 5 months to July, guess what? He had a ticket for another flight from the same airline, MH17. But right before leaving for the airport, he decided to save a couple €100 and changed his booking to a later flight. That plane, as you know, was shot down over Ukraine and there were no survivors. Twice in 5 months, his financial genius, frugality, saved his life with an insane plot dodge. I'm betting he rides his bike everywhere now. Planes? Hard pass.
Epic Dude number 12, Harrison Okene, prisoner of the deep. For 3 days, Harrison Okene lived the ultimate nightmare fuel. He was a cook on a tugboat that flipped and sank 100 feet deep in the Atlantic. While 11 of his shipmates perished, Okene was washed into a restroom, yes, a toilet, where a miraculous air pocket formed about 3 feet high. It was an absolute horror movie setup. Total darkness, freezing water, and his only companion was a can of Coke. He sat on an overturned crate while fish swam around, delicately dining on the rest of his friends. When the dive team finally descended, they were only looking for bodies. Imagine the ultimate nope moment the diver experienced when a hand reached out from the sunken ship's pitch blackness and grabbed him. The diver nearly dropped his entire oxygen tank and bolted. Harrison survived in that underwater tomb for almost 72 hours. This is a scripted miracle. After that, I wouldn't even trust a swimming pool.
Character 13, Léger Silaire, the man God kissed. In May 1902, getting arrested turned out to be the most profitable legal life hack in history for Léger Silaire. This guy landed in solitary confinement on the island of Martinique for getting into a drunken fight. His cell was definitely not luxury. A stone coffin, partially underground, windowless, with just one narrow air slit. A couple of days later, the nearby Mount Pelée decided to throw the deadliest party of the 20th century. A superheated pyroclastic flow moving at hundreds of miles per hour instantly incinerated the city of Saint-Pierre, killing all 30,000 residents. Everyone except the one drunk guy in the jail cell. The thick walls of his temporary incarceration saved him from the impossible heat and gas. He was found 4 days later, a little singed, but alive. God himself enabled the cheat code on him, and Léger was pardoned. He later toured with the circus as the man who survived doomsday. The moral: sometimes the most important thing is to get drunk at the right time and find your lockdown savior. Number 14. Charles Mayhew, from Naked and Afraid. The 1917 Halifax Explosion was the most powerful man-made blast in history before they invented nukes. Imagine an entire city reduced to rubble. British sailor Charles Mayhew was standing on the pier. The blast wave decided he didn't belong there and launched him into the air like a human cannonball. Charles flew, get this, about 2 kilometers. That's over a mile by air. The force of the shockwave was so insane, it ripped every single thread of clothing off his body. He landed on the other side of the harbor, completely naked, slightly concussed, but otherwise fine. Picture this conversation with his wife. Honey, I just went out for cigarettes and then boom, and now I'm naked in a field 2 kilometers away. That wasn't just survival, that was a teleportation glitch with an element of G-force striptease. Physics Miracles number 15. Iain Lawrence, the cartoon-level lucky guy. World War I pilot Iain Lawrence earned the nickname the Lucky One for a reason. During a dogfight, his plane collided with a German fighter. Normally, this means instant death and a fireball. Lawrence was thrown from the cockpit and began to fall. But instead of hitting the ground, he, get this, landed directly on the tail of the very same German plane he had just hit. The German pilot, who was probably already saying his goodbyes and asking all the gods for forgiveness, suddenly discovered an uninvited passenger on his tail. The German managed to make an emergency landing. Both survived. Lawrence was immediately taken prisoner. But I think the German soldiers looked at him not as an enemy, but as a true cheater with an immortality code. That wasn't just luck, that was GTA physics on maximum settings.
And that's where part 1 comes to an end. If you thought these were the luckiest maniacs in human history, buckle up. Part 2 is already on the way, and the stories there are so wild, even Jason Statham would go, "All right, that's too much." So don't disappear. Hit subscribe, drop a like, ring the bell. Luck favors those who stay till the end. See you in the next episode.